Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello friends, welcome back to this lecture series of BSc with Chemistry, discipline specific elective of quantum chemistry, spectroscopy and photochemistry. From this lecture, we are starting with the molecular spectroscopy section and we will see the various spectra which arises in it. Now friends, look at these beautiful pictures. Have you ever thought about that how we can see these beautiful things in nature? You can see this fish, you can see this rainbow, you can see this beautiful bird, you can see this peacock, and you can see this beautiful fish, this beautiful scenery, all these beautiful colors you can see. Now see how great the nature is, how we can see all those beautiful colors in nature. It is basically due to the interaction of electromagnetic radiation with matter. And today we are going to start with this particular topic in which we are going to see these facts regarding the interactions of electromagnetic radiation with matter. Now to see anything, we need to detect the photon that are reflected or emitted by the object around us. And this process begins when the photons of light falls on the cells known as photoreceptors. We will see how such interesting facts and science behind it in this module and the particular molecular spectroscopy, how it arises from it. So friends, enjoy the beauty of nature through the molecular spectroscopy. Now friends, what are electromagnetic waves? These electromagnetic waves are similar to ocean waves. They transmit energy and they are produced due to vibration of charged particles, and they are composed of electrical and magnetic waves. Herein, if you see the magnetic waves, red line, and the electric waves, blue line, and their propagation direction. Now, unlike ocean waves, they travel through vacuum space at the constant speed of light. Now, electromagnetic waves have crust and troughs. These tops, if you call them as crests, downside you can call it as a trough, then crest and troughs. So the distance between these two crests or troughs are very short and they are known as the wavelength. In certain cases they are very short, in certain cases they are very long. So the wavelength depends on these distances of the distance between two crests and two troughs. So some electromagnetic wavelength is very large, say ranging from the size of a pin tip to the big mountains, and then even the size of the planet. And some of them are very tiny as the tip of the pin. The number of crests that pass through a particular point in a second is called as the frequency of electromagnetic waves. This is what we have seen till now, and this is what we know about the wave. This is our classical mechanics knowledge. Now as we go on increasing the frequency from radio waves, we can see that the wavelength decreases till gamma ray in this direction, from these long range radio waves to gamma rays. So this wavelength go on decreasing. This is very long wavelength to very short wavelength and very high energy. So energy also from this, as compared to radio waves, the energy of gamma rays is tremendously high, and radio waves, they are having very low energy. So energy increases in this direction and your wavelength decreases in this direction. So the frequency also increases in this particular direction. So right now, if you see in your room, apart from whatever visible things are there uh, in your room, apart from that, there are radio waves, there are microwaves, and actually right now in front of your eyes, there is a chaos of waves across the room right now present, which makes the situation really very chaotic. If imagine that if we could see all of them, all the waves, right from the radio waves to gamma rays, what would have happened? If we could see all of them, probably we could have not seen anything in the room. And therefore, this nature is very beautiful that way. This nature has given us a gift to tune our eyes to only specific region of electromagnetic waves. That is between 400 to 700 nanometers approximately, so that we can watch our TV comfortably, we can watch our routine things, we can watch this beautiful nature and we can experience it. Objects appear color in this beautiful nature because of electromagnetic wave interaction with matter. During this process of interaction, some wavelengths are absorbed and others are reflected. Say for example, we can see the leaves of trees are green because electromagnetic waves interact with the chlorophyll of the leaves, and the wavelength of say 492 nanometers to 572 nanometers are reflected, which our eyes are recognized can recognize as green in color. Similar to this is the case of other color. We can enjoy looking at the various colors, beautiful colors of nature. Now, our eyes can tell us only about the specific part of electromagnetic wave interaction with matter, which we can see only. However, our eyes cannot tell us what happens to ultraviolet rays, what happens to infrared rays, what happens to microwave rays, or what happens to other electromagnetic regions which we cannot see. Now, to study these aspects, scientists have devised various ways to study them in spectroscopy. And this is what the major part we can see in spectroscopy. We call it as these spectroscopy aspects. We cover these spectroscopy aspects in molecular spectra. Now, it is for sure, friends, that everything around us emits, reflects, and absorbs the electromagnetic waves differently. It is obviously based on its composition. The electromagnetic wave interaction with matter gives us signature pattern, particularly specifically fixed signature pattern due to their specific composition, and hence we can determine the exact composition of material from the interaction data of electromagnetic wave with water. This is how exactly we can find out the water on other planets sitting at the Earth. We can see billion light years away planet, and we can actually try to detect what is present in the soil or what is the composition of that particular planet. We can determine their patterns and we can determine their trends as well. In this particular electromagnetic wave spectrum, if you see right from this right side, after this long range radio waves, if you go on decreasing the wavelength, you get AM waves, FM waves, then as a whole these are known as radio waves. After that, you use your cell phones, that is the microwave region. You can pop up your popcorns while watching the movie in this microwave energy region. You can see the spectral lines, spectral signatures of molecules or synthesis material. It is particularly use of chemists, IR region, that is infrared region. In this region, we can see actually these beautiful colors, VIBGOIR, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. And this is actually the range of say 380 nanometers to 750 nanometers approximately. Then it comes with little higher energy, the ultraviolet rays which we receive from sun, and then the little higher range is X-rays, and then gamma rays with very high energy and very low wavelength with high frequency. So one by one, if you try to see, the radio waves are the waves in which you can actually FM and AM, you know these terminologies. Your radio captures radio waves emitted by radio stations, bringing your favorite tunes. You can listen to your favorite music while traveling somewhere. So radio waves are emitted by even stars and gases in the space. It has lowest frequency, and these radio waves are used to detect the presence of stars and planets in the universe. One can send the messages to the universe, and the stars and planets which are unknown to us billion light years ahead, that can be seen and that can be detected using these radio waves. This is how these long range radio waves can be utilized. If you look at the microwaves in this region, the microwave radiation will cook your popcorn in just a few minutes, but it is also used by astronomers to learn about the structure of nearby galaxies. Likewise, if you look at this infrared region, night vision goggles pick up the infrared light emitted by our skin and objects with the heat that usually the living being releases. In space, infrared light helps us to map the dust between stars. This is how meteorological department monitors it. Now, if you come to this visible range, as we have seen, our eyes detects the visible light, fireflies, light blues, and the stars all will emit the visible lights. When a beam of monochromatic light passes through a prism, it splits into the spectrum, which we know as waveguide. You can see this beautiful spectrum animation, which is presented over here. Apart from that, if you go to this ultraviolet region with further higher energy, the ultraviolet radiation is emitted by the sun and are the reason why skin tans and burns. Hot objects in the space emits UV radiation, as well as the sun like big stars. X-rays, if you go for X-rays with little higher energy, dentist uses X-rays to image your teeth. A doctor sees all the bones, it is used to detect the fractures in the bones. Even at airport security, we can use them to see through your bag. Hot gases in the universe also emits the X-rays. In short, we are getting the introduced with all the waves like gamma rays. If you go with the highest energy of these gamma rays or the electromagnetic spectrum range, so gamma rays, doctors can use these gamma rays imaging to see inside your body. It is used for the irradiation of material, particularly chemists and biologists. They use it. The biggest gamma ray generator of all is the universe. So all in all, the electromagnetic radiation are still a mystery for human being, and even now we find daily we are basically, the more we understand regarding about the electromagnetic radiation, the more it becomes complex and complex. We are learning with our knowledge of this universe as we are understanding the nature of electromagnetic waves. This is how we are going to understand or we usually learn many things about the electromagnetic radiation. The more you focus, the more you get to know the finer aspect of electromagnetic radiation. We actually learn more about the nature. We learn more about this existence of this universe. So we are going to see the interaction of this electromagnetic radiation with the matter, which falls under these range of right from long range radio waves to gamma rays. Let us see one by one all of them in this particular lecture. And we will have the introduction to all of these spectra in this lecture, and then in detail we will see one by one these spectra in individual lectures. Now, till now, what we have seen till our previous lectures or previous modules, we have seen that just as electron occupy atomic orbital in atoms, the electrons in molecules also occupy molecular orbitals, isn't it? This molecular orbital diagram we are familiar with till last lecture. And similar to atomic orbital, electrons in molecular orbitals can absorb or release photons of a specific energy as they move from the one molecular orbital to another. They can transfer from this particular bonding molecular orbital to anti-bonding molecular orbital by absorbing the energy. However, there is a significant difference between the absorption or emission process in an isolated atom or that of the molecule. Basically, when an electron is promoted to a higher energy level in an atom, the product is an atom in an excited state, isn't it? That we have seen earlier also. Generally, we call it as an excited state atom or ion, and it will decay back to ground state by emitting a photon, isn't it? This is a usual process, absorption and emission. However, when an electron within a molecule is excited, it moves or promoted to the original to its original molecular orbital from its original molecular orbital to another molecular orbital, which is non-bonding or say anti-bonding. So now there are number of different consequences that may occur in molecular orbital when the particular electron absorbs the photon and it gets to promote the at the higher energy level or molecular orbital level. So the one of very interesting result is that the bond will break due to the overall stabilizing interaction whenever such electron absorbs energy from lower molecular orbital to higher molecular orbital, because if electron jumps from this level to this level, it shifts from bonding molecular orbital to anti-bonding molecular orbital. Say for example, if we take the example of hydrogen molecule, which is the simplest possible molecule. The set of molecular orbitals for hydrogen include a sigma bonding orbital and sigma star molecular orbital. Now, in ground state or the lowest energy state, the molecular hydrogen has basically what I can say, both the electrons of this hydrogen molecules are lying at the bonding molecules orbital. Now, if one of the bonding electron absorbs photon from this place that has just sufficient energy or amount of energy that is required to cross the barrier and shifts from this place to this place, it will be promoted and moved into destabilized antibonding orbital. Getting the point? From this level to this level. So what will happen? It will cause the bond between the atom to break. That because it has shifted from bonding to antibonding. That means we can imagine if chemical bonds were susceptible to breaking merely by being exposed to low energy electromagnetic radiation, say that of visible light, this world would have been a different place. In fact, in other words, if I want to say, life would not have been possible, since it depends on the stability of molecule majority. And therefore, the major question comes under such circumstances is that how are these processes takes place in nature then? How electrons in molecular orbital, they shifts their position from lower energy level to higher energy level? The answer is that the most biological complex molecules, they also contains pi bonds and non-bonding electrons. We have seen in our earlier lectures that there are, in addition to sigma bonds, there are pi bonds, there are non-bonding electrons which are present in the non-bonding orbitals. So the transition between these orbitals may absorb, or they may get absorb energy at lower energy level, and these orbital as such requires lesser energy. If you see here, as compared to this bonding and anti-bonding, the energy between these two bonding and anti-bonding is much lesser, and therefore electron can very easily shift from this to this by absorbing lower amount of energy. And under such circumstances, what we were saying that can be effected. So now let us understand the various aspects of molecular spectroscopy in this module from this point of view, and basically the excitation and de-excitation of electron in molecular orbitals. So basically in spectroscopy, we deal with the transition between energy levels due to absorption or emission of some radiation. Say, look at the figure. If a photon of frequency nu falls on a molecule at lower energy, or say at lower energy level, say E1, and if it absorbs energy, it goes to higher energy level with the absorption of energy, correct? And that energy will be equivalent to h nu. And the spectrum thus obtained because of the absorption is known as absorption spectrum from this particular pattern. Now similarly, if the molecule falls from the higher energy level to lower energy level, from this to this, the energy will be released in form of this photon h nu, and under such circumstances the emission is known as, or the spectrum is known as emission spectrum. So there are various techniques to study the effect of electromagnetic radiation or electromagnetic interaction with matter in different region of frequency. And we can also see what are the interactions with the wavelength and their energies. So there will be change in energy, there will be change in wavelength, there will be change in frequency, and we can all study these aspects in this molecular spectra. So the molecular spectra obtained in this style of absorption and emission is governed by various selection rules, and we are going to see the selection rules in each case of molecular spectra. And usually these selection rules are basically they gives the changes between quantum numbers associated with the particular transition. And if I try to summarize this selection rules, without the selection rules we could never understand the nature of spectrum. There are certain rules that we are going to see one by one during the study of molecular spectra. So we will discuss about it in detail during the course of time in this lecture series. We will try to accommodate their consequences, and then further we will see one by one in almost all spectra their effects. This is another important aspect, Born-Oppenheimer approximation. This term is not new to us. We have seen this term earlier also in this particular lecture series. Look at this example. This is also not new to us. This figure is also from one of the lecture that we have covered earlier. This is the generalized example. Now, why we have taken it over here? We have taken it over here because this Born-Oppenheimer approximation simplifies most of the things while dealing with the molecular spectra. In order to basically study the molecular spectra, like in contrast to what we have studied in atomic spectra, we need to understand the role of Born-Oppenheimer approximation. That way it is very important. For this, let us first try to write down the Hamiltonian for a diatomic molecule like this. Now this is not again new to you. We have written all the terms. You can see the nuclear kinetic term, the electronic kinetic term, and then potential energy term, which is then specified like this by equation number 2, wherein you can see the interaction of nuclear electronic interaction, then inter-electronic interaction, and internuclear interactions. All these terms, if I put together this V of R here, so I get the complete expression of Hamiltonian H cap. The point to be noted here is that if we look at this equation 1 and 2, or the combined expression of Hamiltonian after putting the value of this V of R and R herein, that is equation 2 in equation 1. If you look at the Hamiltonian expression, it comprises of all the terms including electronic and nuclear interaction. And basically the term which is associated with the both electronic and nuclear part, basically this term, prevents us in separating the expression from in the electronic and nuclear part separately. That is what is our problem. So Born-Oppenheimer approximation helps us in doing so, and this is obviously not new to us. We have I already told you we have done it before. This kind of we have used this Born-Oppenheimer approximation earlier in this lecture. Now in this approximation, we neglect the motion of the atomic nuclei when describing the electron in a molecule. According to Born-Oppenheimer approximation, the mass of an atomic nucleus in a molecule is much larger than the mass of an electron, approximately say more than 1000 times, say in majority cases, or 2000 times around. Because of this difference, the nuclei moves much slower than the electrons, and hence the nuclear kinetic energy term, which can be neglected, whereas I mean this particular term can be neglected, is the one approximation that can be done. Whereas the second thing is this, that this particular term, or if I come to this overall Hamiltonian expression of equation number 3, that is your nuclear kinetic energy term, then electronic kinetic energy term, then it is nuclear electronic potential energy term, internuclear potential energy term, and interelectronic potential energy term. So there are 5 terms. So since your nucleus are very heavier and they move very slower as compared to electrons, so this can be neglected. Now look at this term. This is a mixed term. This is a mixed term. This particular part is very large. This particular part is very large, and hence it cannot be neglected, and this is the problem. And therefore, for a fixed nuclear configuration, we can write the electronic Hamiltonian of 4 terms, that is particularly of this part. Isn't it? Electronic, interelectronic kinetic energy term. Now you can see all the potential energy terms. Now, in majority of the cases, the distance r between two nucleus, it majorly remains constant, and hence this also can be neglected. That means this particular term or this particular term, because it will only shift the eigenvalue by some constant amount, and therefore we can actually in this way the Hamiltonian or corresponding results may be expressed by multiplying those particular constant. And therefore if I neglect, so my Hamiltonian for electronic part can be given by this particularly equation number 5, isn't it? So kinetic energy of electronic part, and then this potential energy part, and then interelectronic part. Now the corresponding eigenvalues in terms of energies according to Born-Oppenheimer approximation will lead to your equation number 6, which comprises of energy of translational motion, energy of rotational motion, energy of vibrational motions, and energy of electronic motion. And therefore that way this particular expression summarizes that how the energy of molecule can be determined. All in all, what I conclude here, or I suggest here, that the energy is actually the sum of translation energy, rotational energy, vibration energy, and electronic energy. However, in practice, the translation energy is that way negligibly small, and hence as per the Born-Oppenheimer approximation, the overall energy is given by this rotational part plus vibrational part plus electronic part. Now let us try to understand these energies through this energy profile. We have attempted to show you the energy profile from the from ground state to excited electronic state. Now let us try to understand these energies through particularly this profile. The orange lines are rotational energy levels, here, in excited state also, here, and the blue lines are vibrational levels. You can see these are the vibrational levels. Now rotational lines are associated with the rotations of molecules about an axis, whereas the vibrational lines are attributed to the oscillations of nuclei of the molecule. And the electronic energy is associated when the molecule shifts from the ground state energy level, that is this, to particularly excited state. That is this. You can see this shifting of electronic state. So the electronic energy basically which is associated with this molecule, it shifts from the ground energy level to excited energy level by the absorption of photon of suitable frequency, and it is usually done in a series of vibrational levels which are associated with the electronic state, and with each of the vibrational level there are rotational level associated with them. So when a molecule absorbs radiation, the number of possible spectra are the rotational spectra which appears when there is a transition in rotational energy level due to absorption of radiation in the microwave region, or we can say their spectral range, if you try to see for this microwave region, is about 1 to 100 centimeter inverse. Usually the molecule possessing permanent dipole moment shows the microwave or rotational spectra. Say for example, if you take the example of HF, or the homonuclear diatomic molecule like hydrogen molecule or chlorine molecule, that is Cl2 or H2, they basically do not show the microwave spectra due to zero dipole moment. And the heteronuclear molecular atoms like HF, they show the microwave spectra. Likewise, if I try to see the vibrational or infrared region spectra, they appears when the transitions are induced among the vibration energy level due to absorption of energy radiation, say in the spectral range of say 500 to 4000 centimeter inverse, and hence this particular spectra is also known as IR or infrared spectra. It appears due to the change in dipole moment of molecule due to vibrations or oscillations. Now, there is also the appearance of Raman spectra when we measure the scattering of visible light when allowed, such radiations when allowed to fall on the sample molecule at right angle to each other. Now, when the light has the same frequency, the incident and the scattered one, in that case, it is known as the relay scattering. And when this light frequency becomes different than the incident, than the whatever we have incident on the molecule, then under such circumstances this scattering which we obtain is known as Raman scattering basically. So the basic difference between these two is that these weak and I mean basically the difference between these weak lines and the relay lines correspond to vibrational or rotational transition in the molecule, and it happens or it takes place in the spectral region usually of 12,500 to 25,000 centimeter inverse. This is for Raman spectra. Likewise, if you try to see the electronic spectra, it appears when the electronic transition takes place in the molecule due to absorption of energy radiation in the visible and UV region up to sufficient high extent so that it can jump from the one electronic state to excited state electronic state. So the electronic spectra is that way complex in nature, and since vibrational and rotational transitions are also accompanied along with it, it becomes a little bit complex. We will understand this electronic spectra while dealing with in detail in the electronic spectra lecture. Apart from that, we can see the effect of magnetic field in the nuclear magnetic resonance spectra, or we can call it as a nuclear quadruple resonance spectra, which occurs under the effect of magnetic field, and usually the transition between nuclear spins takes place in it. Basically, we can say that the NMR is very vital part of spectral analysis to understand the interaction in unsymmetrical charge distribution in nuclei under the effect of magnetic field. Similarly, there is other vital part of this molecular spectra is the electron spin resonance or ESR or EPR. This also we will see in a separate lecture, and this is a result of transition induced in a electron spin energy level of a molecule, and specifically for a molecule possessing an unpaired electron. Those only which possess unpaired electron can lead to this ESR spectra. So such spectral lines studies can be done in particularly microwave region. Apart from this, there are other spectroscopic studies like photoelectron spectroscopy, which we call it as a PES, and Mossbauer spectroscopy. However, we will limit our discussion to this rotational spectra, vibrational spectra, Raman spectra, electronic spectra, NMR, and ESR or EPR, and we will not go to this PES and Mossbauer spectroscopy in this particular module. So herein actually this is what was the introduction to this particular molecular spectra we have seen here. We will continue with the study of molecular spectra, and we will start with the rotational spectra in the next lecture. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.